fiber of my being Mrs. Reese. She deserves to be here right now. She should have been graduating with all of us in 2022 from nursing at McMaster.
Reliving the terrifying moments a gunman opened fire on the Danforth. It was 5 years ago tonight that a number of lives in Toronto were shattered. It was one of the city's worst mass shootings in history. Ever since, survivors and their families have pressed on, calling for stricter gun controls. Tonight, the community is coming together at that vigil you're looking at. We'll take you live there in a minute. But first, Tyler Cheese spent the day speaking with those deeply impacted.
On the evening of July 22, 2018, gunfire rang out in Greektown, one of Toronto's busiest neighborhoods. 10-year-old Juliana Causas and 18-year-old Reese Fallon were both shot and killed in the attack. The gunman eventually turned the weapon on himself after shooting a number of others at random. Ken Price's daughter, Samantha, was 17 at the time. She survived her injuries.
But that moment, that memory, the time, I can see the image of the phone, my phone ringing and Samantha's name on it. All of that is like it happened 5 minutes ago, not 5 years ago.
Since the shooting, Price and other advocates have been calling for stronger gun control.
If we take a public health framework around solving this, which is what we believe in, have come to believe, it's not just law and order, it's not just gun control, it's a number of things, then it's a broader conversation and that needs to be pressed.
He says it's important to take time to reflect on what happened and to honor the victims.
Well, let's go live now to the park where the community is still gathering at this hour. Tyler joining us now. Tonight, so many people there and beyond are keeping the memory of those two young women close.
Yeah, Shannon, the commemoration was held here just moments ago near two trees that were planted in memory of Reese and Juliana, one of which you can see just over my shoulder. A number of people spoke, sharing their memories of that horrific night, including Mayor Olivia Chow.
Lives were changed forever. For the Kosek family, they lost a 10-year-old dreamer who was passionate about dancing, and in her final moments was seen singing and skipping, full of energy and joy. For the Fallen family, they lost an ambitious, beautiful 18-year-old daughter.
Now, the focus of advocates we spoke to today was on gun control. Many of the Danforth shooting survivors and their families have been instrumental in pushing through Bill C-21, which is currently before the Senate. If passed, the bill would legislate a national freeze on handgun sales, a crackdown on homemade and untraceable guns, and provide a technical definition of assault-style firearms. That bill has been under intense scrutiny in recent months, with the public safety minister pushing for it to be passed quickly. But some senators say if the current version of the bill is passed, it may unfairly affect hunters and farmers. Still, those in attendance tonight say they support the bill and that they want to see action taken on this issue sooner rather than later. Shannon?
Reese was love personified. She radiated so much light and shined bright in any room she stepped foot in. Reese could fill your soul with comfort and love just by simply talking to you.
Okay, thanks, Tyler. He's reporting for us live tonight. That was just another clip of two of the people speaking at that memorial. Well, we're turning to some other news now. A Toronto police officer has minor injuries after being hit by a vehicle while on duty in Parkdale. Police say two suspects left the scene. Here's what we know at this hour. An officer was riding a bike while on duty in full uniform when they were hit. Two suspects in the vehicle took off on foot. Officers say they've tracked down that vehicle, but not the alleged suspects. They're described as two white men between the ages of 17 and 20. They were wearing all black and have a thin build. Meantime, residents and small businesses in the Church and Wellesley neighborhood in Toronto coming together in protest this afternoon. They say they're frustrated after years of vandalism, violence, and harassment. As Patrick Swadden shows us, they're demanding all three levels of government step up.
Church Wellesley community members taking their voices to the streets today, saying they've had enough of rising violence and vandalism in the neighborhood.
Stop the violence!
It's frightening being beside that park every day.
Dudley's Hardware owner Stephen Dawson saying his windows have been smashed 4 times this year alone and that he might have to close his shop.
Years ago, I was held hostage in the store.
And he's not the only one.
I live in the village. I've been chased from walking in front of the 519. There are people doing drugs actively in the park, morning, noon, night.
They accost you, they scream at you, they throw things at you.
The protesters saying 519 Community Center's increase of social service programs has brought more drug use and vandalism into the neighborhood, and the organization isn't doing enough to manage it.
And how many years, time and time again, do I have to keep saying this? My voice is getting louder because you guys are getting louder.
This community center used to be a safe space for all of us. Last year I was assaulted in this very spot from someone coming off these steps.
Community leaders saying they're not against homelessness and helping those in need, but are drawing the line at harassment and violence. But the 519 saying the problems are systemic and citywide, and they're just trying to help fight a complex issue.
They should be talking to all levels of government and saying what are the solutions to the structural issues, because the 519 is not going to be able to fix all of the structural issues.
And some of the locals took that message to heart.
Our city has failed us, our provincial government has failed us, our federal government has failed us.
Shame! Shame!
With some elected officials showing up in person to hear those protesters, even if those, like Councillor Chris Moyes, couldn't get a word in edgewise. While others listened.
What suggestions are you going to give to Doug? You're at a different level of government now. Yeah. What are you going to do?
One is demanding that the government release and spend the $22 billion that they're sitting on.
That's
because
right.
We have mental health and addictions crisis, homelessness crisis that is plaguing not just this neighborhood, but right across Ontario.
MPP Kristen Wong-Tam saying the 519 Toronto Police, corporate security and other city staff held an emergency meeting Friday and are considering all options to keep the community safe, as violence in the neighborhood causes frustrations to boil over. Patrick Swadden, CBC News, Toronto.
We're going to Nova Scotia next, where tonight frantic searches are underway for 4 people who disappeared when their vehicles were swept away by floodwater. Among the missing are 2 children. Much of the province remains under a rainfall warning as historic flooding forces thousands from their homes. Chris O'Neill-Yates is tracking it all for us.
As a result, we've declared a state of emergency in the following areas.
The Nova Scotia Premier declaring a state of emergency in several areas. Tim Houston says there's also a full-on search in West Hants County.
We have confirmed reports from the RCMP of 4 missing people out of 2 separate incidents.
2 of them children in a car that became submerged as 3 passengers escaped. In a separate incident, a man and a youth are also missing.
We don't want to provide location because we don't want to encourage people to go start looking themselves for it because of the dangers involved.
Over 250 millimeters of rain pounded parts of Nova Scotia, dropping a typical summer's worth in a matter of hours. Melanie McWhorter managed to get to a comfort centre before her street got washed out.
The fire department showed up and told us that we had about 10 minutes to get what we needed together.
Roads, highways, many still impassable. People are urged to stay home. First responders have been helping get people to safety, and 400 people are working to get power back for several thousand customers.
Our crews have been working tirelessly around the clock to restore power as quickly as possible. They'll be working all night tonight. We expect that the majority of people will be back on tonight.
A close call on the St. Croix River as a dam looked like it might burst.
Thankfully, it's under control. They're releasing some water from that dam, and we've got most of the area evacuated now.
So once again, our community is facing the awful force and unpredictability of nature and a changing climate.
A big cleanup lies ahead. The Prime Minister promises help.
We're thinking of families going through an incredibly difficult moment, and we will be there for them while they're going through this, but also through the difficult days and weeks to come on the cleanup.
More rain will continue into tonight into parts of Nova Scotia as it attempts to recover from last night, all while searching to find 4 missing people and bring them home. Chris O'Neill-Yates, CBC News, St. John's.
And here is a live look from Nova Scotia tonight. You know, we're hearing rainfall amounts last seen in 1971. Sophia is joining us now, and I feel like the last time we were talking about this region, we were talking about wildfires, so they have just been so hard hit.
Yeah, from fires to floods, this is a historic and unprecedented amount of water. This is a summer's worth of rain, Shannon, that came down in just a few hours, really, on Friday. Unfortunately, we are still seeing more rain come down to some of the hardest hit areas. We just saw a big plume of moisture and another storm come through to parts of downtown Halifax just a little while ago. Let's put this in perspective for you, because this was training storms that came down in a really narrow band, dropping 300 millimeters of rainfall really just on Friday. Still a little bit more to come today for any of your friends and family in Nova Scotia. Then the cleanup will begin tomorrow, or if you're wondering why this is all happening, it's really warm sea surface temperatures that were the driving force behind the extra heat and humidity and instability. We had our own little bit of instability on Thursday in parts of southern Ontario. Big severe storm lines, squall lines prompted tornado warnings. It is calmer now today, though. Let's get you current conditions. Calm, beautiful summer's day out there today, but if you stick around for the long range, I'll tell you about the little storm risk coming for Sunday and how it'll be a thing to come for really the first half of this work week. And then we got a hot end of the week to look forward to. It'll be a nice week to be up at the cottage for the latter half of the week.
Okay,
Shannon.
thanks, Sophia. We'll see you shortly.
You're welcome.
The Dufferin Street Bridge in Toronto's West End is under an emergency closure for repairs that could take months. The city closed all lanes Friday after originally closing only the southbound lane, but now officials say additional damage was found and more repairs are needed. The pedestrian sidewalk will remain open throughout, but the city is asking cyclists to dismount their bikes if crossing the bridge. Repairs are expected to take at least 2 months. If your weekend includes a trip on the Burlington Skyway, you may want to make some route adjustments. Niagara-bound lanes on the QEW Skyway closes tonight at 10 until tomorrow morning around 11:30. Further closures will happen next Friday. The Ministry of Transportation says the closures will allow critical repairs to get. A vigil is taking place tonight in Mississauga for a 24-year-old killed in a carjacking earlier this month. Just yesterday, Peel Police released these images of a white Hyundai Accent believed to be a 2012 to 2017 model with one unique aftermarket addition, a distinctive flashing blue light you see there on your screen at the top of the windshield. Police say this car was seen multiple times in the area of Emerson Drive in Mississauga. That's where Gurvinder Nath was viciously beaten and robbed. He was working as a food delivery driver. Family and friends remembering him as hardworking, honest, and helpful. Meantime, family and friends also coming together at a funeral for the mother of two killed in Leslieville earlier this month. 44-year-old Carolina Hubner-Makarat, known as Caroline, was killed by a stray bullet as she walked past Queen and Carlaw on July 7th. 2 suspects are still outstanding. Caroline is being remembered as someone who treasured her family and cared deeply for her community. A private service was held in Scarborough. You may have seen the footage earlier this week of the Prime Minister surrounded by nearly 100 protesters in Belleville. Justin Trudeau had to cut that event short. Today, he was back out at a few festivals in Toronto. As Deanna Sumanak-Johnson shows us, the crowds were much more welcoming this time.
It was a good day for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as he met people in the Greater Toronto area. A day in stark contrast to Thursday when he was swarmed by protesters in Belleville, Ontario. The day began with a visit to a private home. Next up, it was the Junior Carnival Parade, a children's event where the Prime Minister was a hit.
I'm never washing my hand again.
Next up, it was off to the Fun Philippines Festival, where the Prime Minister encountered more goodwill. And in a day of mostly fun events, he did make a comment about the flooding in Nova Scotia.
Obviously, I am very concerned about the flooding in Nova Scotia. I expect it to continue for people to listen to local authorities on how to stay safe and how to make sure we're all being there for each other.
And that wrapped up a few days of meeting Ontarians and getting a sense of what people in this province are thinking. The Prime Minister is widely expected to shuffle the cabinet before the August long weekend. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, for the first time since 1960, over 60 years ago, the Double Blue have started a season at 5-0.
Oh yeah, the winning streak is still very much alive for the Toronto Argos, the team capping off the first 5 games of the season with another win. Last night against the Hamilton Ticats, quarterback Chad Kelly scored 2 touchdowns en route to the win. The Argos remain the lone unbeaten team in the league this season. And here's a live look of the Toronto skyline tonight. Looking beautiful out there in the city, sitting at 26 degrees right now. The sun still shining away, but there is some wet weather on the way. Sophia will be back with us after the break with a look at your long-range forecast. Stay with us. Lots of fun summertime events happening around the city this weekend. Hundreds gathering at Nathan Phillips Square today for the annual Pan American Food and Music Festival.
Today we're celebrating the 11th annual Pan American Food and Music Festival. It's a festival that brings together 30 countries from North, Central, South America and the Caribbean to celebrate diversity in food and culture.
The 2-day festival features a salsa competition, empanada eating contest, folklore dances, a Pan-American parade, and obviously lots of delicious food from the Americas and the Caribbean. As you saw earlier in the show, the Junior Caribbean Carnival Parade bringing the fun and fashion to Scarborough today.
I just love seeing the kids. I love that we're continuing the culture and spreading the message of love.
I love the outfits. I think it's important because all the different countries are coming together just to celebrate one day. I'm just happy to be here for I can dance and have a good time.
Thousands of junior revelers dressed in colorful costumes marching down Nielsen Road. Organizers say the event provides young people with an opportunity to share their talents, creativity, confidence, and cultural appreciation. The parade goes until 8 p.m. tonight. You couldn't have asked for better weather. Can I say that? Today?
Yep, you did it, and it was perfect. It was perfect. The weather worked out. We put in that request in. You might have to have eyes to the sky, though, coming in tomorrow. Right now, though, absolutely glorious summer day to be by the pool, maybe dockside. Tomorrow, though, let's have a look at the severe storm risk that could be really anywhere from Windsor to Barrie. Very scattered in nature. Mostly non-severe storms for those of you around the GTA. Let's play it out. Super scattered, not a washout of a day by any means, but eyes to the sky will be the name of the game. There you go. There's a look at the potential storm risk, maybe Sunday evening for some non-severe storms and maybe some more beefy ones up towards cottage country. But the name of the game really, folks, for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, as we've just got heat and instability building and the chance for some run-of-the-mill storms for the next few days. Not washouts by any means. High likelihood that there will be some on and off storms though. But then after that, imagine all that bubbling instability just priming the way for a really hot end of the week. Watch the temperatures continue to grow. So Wednesday, high 20s, feeling like the high 30s, and then we continue to turn up the thermostat for Thursday. High 30s, feeling like the 40s in some places. It continues in for Friday. So if you like the heat, you're gonna like the stretch from Wednesday right up until Saturday. We haven't had 3 days in the 30s like this really all this year. We had one day late May, I believe, that was a 30-degree day, and then early June. But then look at this. Feels like close to the 40s for many in the GTA, even warmer for those of you in southwestern Ontario. For the end of this week, it is going to be a scorcher. Remember to hydrate, 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 and enjoy some of that sun while you can, Shannon.
Yes, and enjoy your time at the cottage. You've been up there having a blast.
Yeah, can you see the tan? My makeup's not quite matching anymore.
Thanks
Gotta
so much,
enjoy it while you
Sophia.
can, soaking up the solar panels.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see you again soon.
See you tomorrow.
Finally, tonight, here's something that's going to make you smile. A much beloved breed of dogs is celebrating a milestone anniversary. It's been 155 years since golden retrievers were first bred in the Scottish Highlands. Hundreds of golden girls and boys recently joining together at the festivities. Lots of treats on hand, I'm sure. That's our show for tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.